Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by Mediacom.
Good morning and welcome to another segment of Capitol Preview. I'm Bill Peard and I'll be your host this morning. Our guest today on Capitol Preview is Senator Steve Sodders, Democrat from Marshalltown. Senator, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, there's a couple things that I'd like to talk to you about this morning, and one is I know you've been a big part of the domestic abuse bill that has been taken up in the Capitol.
Yeah.
You want to kind of go through that with us a little bit and explain what's going on?
Yeah, well, we had a couple of different bills. We had a bill from the governor and we had a bill from Senator McCoy, and it both dealt with similar things about habitual violent offenders, and specifically in the area of domestic assault. And so what we did was we took several pieces of both of those bills and passed individual bills. A couple of things real quick are GPS tracking. Under Iowa code, for a law enforcement agency to put a GPS tracker on your car, we have to have a warrant, we have to go through kind of a judicial process. But actually for private individuals, you can buy these things and get apps for your phone to track people and put them in their car. You can put one on a car and track them, and with no warrant, no anything. So, and what's happening and what they found is in some domestic assault cases, the victim was being tracked by the perpetrator by using these devices. Mm-hmm. So we passed the bill and said, no, you can't do that. If the person that you're tracking doesn't know they're being tracked, then you can't do that. Now, this didn't get into tracking your kid, right? There's some trackers for kids on phones. Right. It didn't deal with that. It really just dealt with these domestic assault cases. Mm-hmm. Then another one we did was for dating violence, where you may not be in a long-term relationship with somebody, but you've dated on and off, you both still have your own places. There was no way for you to get a protective order like we do for if there was a domestic assault case or you wanted to have a protection order. So we now allow for that, or we at least passed a bill to allow for that in a dating violence situation. And those are a couple of big important bills because I think it goes to the heart of people who feel like they're being targeted or tracked or harassed as well from a relationship. And so we've passed some of those over to the House, and they haven't moved in the House yet, but we're still hoping some of these things will be taken up.
You know, and it's amazing how technology has it's solved a lot of problems, but it's created a lot of problems too.
It can, yeah. And you always have to try to keep up. We have to try to keep up with this stuff. It's great technology. It's great to use it when you use it right.
Yeah, and I might mention that you're a deputy sheriff too, so you see this stuff and you deal with this kind of things on a daily basis. So the other thing that I'm interested in is the marijuana legislation, and I know that's kind of twofold. You have two different things about the marijuana that you want to talk about this morning. So
I'm the chair of judiciary this year. I'm the only second non-lawyer to be chair of judiciary in Senate history, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Absolutely.
And some of the things we looked at were looking at some of the drug offenses and how they fit into minority impact and other kind of arrests. So low risk, especially nonviolent low risk offenses, and how can we maybe do things differently than we do now instead of sending people to prison for some of these things? Are there things we can do within the community to get people off of drugs or help them in theft cases and other things that are low violence? Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things we looked at was low levels of marijuana. So possession of marijuana right now is a serious misdemeanor no matter how much you have. So if you have a very small amount to larger amounts, it's a serious misdemeanor, and then of course you can get into possession with the intent to deliver. So we had a bill in the Senate that actually passed bipartisanly over to the House. 5 grams or less of marijuana possession would now be a simple misdemeanor and could just be cited into court by a law enforcement officer. And the impact of that is pretty large for minority impact, and it showed it was going to save money in the criminal justice system because right now that person has to go to jail. They have to get an attorney one way or the other. The judge doesn't let them plead guilty the next morning. So you would alleviate some of those costs by making that small amounts a simple misdemeanor. Mm-hmm. And again, I think we passed that 36 people in the Senate, and so it was a very bipartisan vote in the Senate. And then, of course, We looked at possession with the intent to deliver, 42.5 grams, another very small amount of marijuana with possession with the intent to deliver. A lot of the times people will get that kind of amount to use, and they'll sell some, but only so they can go buy more to use. It's not, we're not talking pounds of the stuff. Under Iowa law currently, possession with the intent to deliver is a Class D felony no matter what amount it is. So you can have up to 100 pounds of the stuff. I could sell you 100 pounds today, Bill, and that's a Class D felony, or I could sell you a gram, that's a felony.
Yeah.
Possession with the intent.
Yep.
That seems a little ridiculous if you think about it. So we were trying to look at ways to reduce the amount a little bit and make 42.5 grams an aggravated misdemeanor instead of a D felony. And again, the impact to prisons was rather large, and the impact to minorities in Iowa was also rather large when you looked at those numbers of current people that are in prison for 42.5 grams or less.
Sure.
And then finally, last week, as you know, we did the medical marijuana bill. Senator Bolcom has been working very hard on a procedure in Iowa. Over 30 states now have some sort of medical marijuana bill or law. Ours is based off of a little bit of what Minnesota did last year, and where we go ahead and we legalize medical marijuana. We set up dispensaries, and we allow for a couple of grows that are monitored, and then there's a whole procedure to get it. So one of the issues is we opened up what you could get it for. So last year, as you know, we passed a bill, governor signed it for epileptic seizures in young kids to be able to use cannabinol oil. This bill would still be cannabis oil, but it would also open it up to MS, cancer, post-traumatic stress. We know that's some other areas that other states have looked at. And so I think those are good things. Crohn's disease, I think, was another. There's kind of a list. Then we set up a board of medical professionals to say, are there other diseases that this medicine could potentially help with? And then they could bring that back to the legislature over time. And then for the patients, you would have to have went to your doctor, been diagnosed with one of these diseases, let's say cancer, and then that has to go to the state Board of Health, and they have to review the case and say, yes, indeed, you have cancer, and you've tried other drugs that aren't working. And most of the other drugs are narcotic-type drugs, and they have pretty wild side effects in some cases. And then after that, they can say, okay, you've tried these, they're not working, now you can try cannabis oil. And then there's several different kinds of those. So there's a process in place, and I think Senator Bolcom did a phenomenal job of setting this in place for Iowa. We're not legalizing it. It's not for recreational use. It is truly to be used for medicinal purposes. And so a part of that bill, and I know I talked to you a little bit about this, was from what we did last year, plus this year's bill, it was my position and has been my position that we needed to change the scheduling of marijuana too. Right now in Iowa, marijuana, and even at the federal level, marijuana is a Schedule I controlled substance, which means it has no medical value. Well, if the governor signed a bill last year saying it had some medical value, that means we need to move it out of Schedule I into Schedule II.
Okay.
So in a Schedule II controlled substance has some medical value. That's really the differences between the two designations. So other drugs in Schedule II are cocaine, methamphetamine. So if those, and they have some medical use, and that's why they sit in Schedule II. Well, marijuana should be in Schedule II as well.
Good job on that, because I know you guys have worked hard, because I've been witness to it, of making this thing make sense, and so I take my hat off to you guys in getting this thing fine-tuned this year as well. So
we just hope the House takes it up. We passed it again in the Senate. We're hoping the House takes it up.
Yep. Just a couple things. We're kind of running out of time here, but I do want you have a fascinating subject on the Cuban trade mission.
Oh yeah.
Iowa has been the first in the nation to pass a resolution to support trade in Cuba. So do you want to run through that with our viewers a little bit?
Well, it's an interesting, I have the former ambassador to Latin America that lives in my district, and he was a former ambassador under Jimmy Carter. I met way back in the 70s. Carlos came to America under Project Peter Pan, was adopted by a family in Marshalltown. Carlos now lives back in Marshalltown after so many years. He's retired. And we started to see what the feds were going to do, with the president's trying to open up relations with Cuba, trying to get an embassy down there. And then here recently, he just took them off the terrorist list, which we needed to do trade.
Right.
So about March 3rd, I put in a Senate resolution for trade with Cuba, and that we wanted to do trade with Cuba. It was the first in the nation. And now we're in conversations with the Secretary of Ag in Cuba and others through Carlos about trying to get Iowa there for a trade mission. And really what they would like to see, not just come down, see the country, and fly back and everybody feels good about it. They really want us to come down, present them with a resolution, but also bring some folks from the corn growers and pork producers and the Secretary of Ag's office here to sit down and start pinning out some deals. What can we get them in the areas of pork, poultry, corn, and they'll give us their needs. And one of the tricks behind all this is they can't have a credit extended to them because they were under the terrorist designation. With what the president did a couple of days ago, and they lifted them out of the terrorist designation, that means now we could actually do not only trade, but they could do credit, and that's a big thing to them. Most of the other countries we work with, whether it be Vietnam or Taiwan or any other China, they can have credit. There's a credit limit there. So we put an insurance policy in place through Lloyd's of London for farmers, for ag that want to do trade with Cuba, and now we're hoping now to sort of open up the banking system, and then how do we now do trade? And I think we are closer and closer to that. So we're hoping maybe July or August we'll get a delegation to go, myself, a couple other senators, some House members, and then some representatives that can go down there and make some deals with the Cubans.
Yep. That's very interesting. It really is cool. I mean, I didn't even think I'd see in my lifetime us opening up our trade channels with Cuba, which is only 90 miles off our Florida coast. So, so good luck and good job with that and getting that going. Briefly, you got about 20 seconds, Senator, to talk to you. I know you've been asked another huge kudo to you to lead the delegation to Taiwan this summer. So.
Yeah, I was happy to do that. I'm on the International Affairs in the Senate, Senate President Pro Tem. So I was asked to lead the delegation this year, myself, Senator Hart, and I think Representative Highfill had been asked to go in July, and we're going to go. And again, this is a continuing friendship with Taiwan. We already do somewhere between $3 and $6 billion worth of soy trade with them, and other kind of trade and other business. And this is just to continue to show our friendship and to work with the Taiwanese government and their people in Iowa. So how do we keep doing trade between the two places?
Sure. Well, thank you for everything. Good stuff coming out of the legislature, and good job to you. Thank you. Our guest today was Senator Steve Sodders. I appreciate the senator coming in and answering the questions that Iowans have on their mind. So please join us in our next segment. We'll have State Representative Rob Taylor, Republican from West Des Moines. Thank you.